Hey everybody, Mr. Morel here, and in this video we're going to have your very first honors lesson, and it's kind of exciting. We're going to be learning about matrices all of first trimester. And so, by the way, matrices is the plural of the word matrix, and The Matrix is an amazing movie, so we have a picture here on the cover. Anyway, yeah, so all the first trimester, we're going to be learning about something called a matrix, which is like matrices are huge in like technology and like holy cow. Matrices are everywhere once you get into programming and stuff like that. Like they're an important thing in the world. So, you guys get your first exposure to matrices here in ninth grade, which is kind of exciting. So this lesson is just about the very, very basics of what is a matrix, and we're going to learn some vocabulary about that. So let's go ahead and dive right into all of that malarkey, and it'll be fun. All right, this goofy looking thing here is a matrix. A matrix is kind of like a table that you're used to, kind of, but you're going to notice it has like these square brackets on each side, and it'll have like numbers. So kind of like a table, okay, but with brackets. That's a matrix. Now, sometimes you label the sides like, yeah, so like sometimes you would label the sides like a table. But once you kind of understand what a matrix is, we're going to kind of drop the labels and do more math stuff with it. So a matrix is kind of like a table that you do math with. Like you're going to see as time goes on, matrices are kind of, they're their own special kind of math, and they're really kind of fun and cool. So I just have an example here about like pasta and sauce and stuff like that, and it's making me hungry because I love Italian food. Yeah, so sometimes you'll label the sides of a matrix, but for the most part, we're going to drop the labels once we know what we're doing. Okay. One really important concept is to know that the numbers going side to side, those are called rows. So this matrix here has 3 rows. 1, 2, 3. I think you can see my cursor in this video. And so rows are going to go across. Columns are going to go up and down, just like the column of a building is a good way to remember that. Okay. So this matrix has 2 columns like that. So here, like going this way, the rows in this example represent the different types of noodles or the different types of pasta. The columns are going to represent the different types of sauce in this particular matrix. Now, matrices have things that are really going to be important for us this trimester called dimensions. And just like the dimensions on a window or a TV or a piece of wood, we're going to use an X, but not the letter X. We're going to use like a multiplication X to represent the dimensions. So this matrix, we talked about how it has 3 rows and 2 columns. And so the way I would describe these dimensions is a 3, the multiplication symbol, and then a 2. Now, you do not multiply these numbers. It's just like a piece of wood. If you go by a 2 by 4, that means that it's 2 inches by 4 inches. You wouldn't say that's like an 8 piece of wood. Same thing here. This matrix isn't a 6 magically. It's a 3 by 2. That means it has 3 rows and 2 columns. A great way to remember this is by thinking of a remote control. If you can just remember remote control, R is the rows and control is C, that's going to be columns. Okay, so remote control. R is your number of rows, that will always, always go first. C is for columns, that's going to go second. And so we're going to say 3 by 2. And when we type this on your assignment, when you type it, you're going to need to use the multiplication symbol, not the letter X. Okay, so that's the dimensions of a matrix. You describe the shape of the matrix by using numbers and the multiplication symbol, and we'll say the word by. All right, so that's a dimension. Now, you could describe the dimensions, like you could describe the matrix with words. So we could say this is a pasta by sauce matrix. Not super common, but only because labels aren't all that common in a matrix because, like I said, we're going to eventually drop those labels. But that's an option. Now, this is going to be really important. You are going to, when we talk about a matrix, it will almost always have a letter. So, for example, we could call this matrix here, we could call it matrix A. And when you describe a full matrix, you're going to use a capital letter. you see a capital letter that's describing a full matrix. So we're going to call this one capital A. So matrix A has a capital A. All right. Now, another vocabulary where that's going to be important is the elements. So we've talked about rows, we've talked about columns, and now let's talk about elements. Each individual number inside is called an element. And so you kind of start thinking about the dimensions. The dimensions were 3 by 2. That's the dimensions. And kind of cool is if you do 3 times 2, that will tell you how many elements there are, because you're going to have 3 sets of 2 elements. And so this matrix has 6 elements inside. Each number is its own element. And every element is going to have an address. I don't know if there's a better word for it, but basically you can kind of give each element a name or an address, something like that. And it kind of looks like this. So in matrix A with the capital letter, we can give it an address, which would be a lowercase a. That means we're talking about an element inside of capital A, the matrix. Okay, so lowercase a means we're talking about a specific element. And then we can have it's like a subtext. It's a smaller text that goes down by the bottom. Okay. And so this looks like this is A12. And I could see why somebody would think that's A12, but it's actually not read that way. This is read as element A12 is what you would say. So it's element A12, not 12. And what that means is go find matrix A, and then you're going to look at row 1, column 2. Okay, so just like remote control, just like the dimensions, we're going to look at row 1, column 2. So let me get my little pen here. As we're looking at which element is A12, we're here at matrix A. So I'm going to go ahead and find row 1 is the top row. And then I'm going to go find element 2, or we're going to find column 2. And so element A12 is the number 5. So if I were to ask you what's A12, you would hopefully tell me the number 5. Okay, hopefully that's pretty straightforward enough. Let's do just a couple more examples. So I just have this page here to just emphasize my point. That's the row number, that's the column number. Very rarely are elements, you don't get a lot of matrices that are so big that you would have like double-digit rows or columns. They're especially not in 9th grade, so don't worry about that. Okay, here we go. What's this element? Element 2, 3. Okay, so remember, remote control, row, column. So I'm going to go ahead and find row 2 and column 3. Oh, there actually is no column 3. This is kind of a trick question. Column 3 would be out here. It actually doesn't exist. So if I ask you for element A23 and there isn't one, hopefully you caught on to that, we're just going to label it with capital letters D, N, E. That means does not exist. And so there are some questions like that on your homework. I am trying to be tricky. So if you notice anything like that, label it D, N, E, all capital letters, no spaces or anything like that. That just means does not exist. And I'll know that you know how to read an element address. All right, let's do one more example here. So that's less mean. Element A31. So element A31, I'm going to go ahead and find row 3, column 1, and that would be this element right here. So element A31 is the number 8. Okay, hopefully that helps you. Let's just do a quick summary. These are rows, these are columns. The dimensions are how many rows there are by how many columns. This should be a multiplication symbol, not the letter X. It's multiplication. Oh, I didn't fix it on this page. You can see it better on this page. See, I did a good job there. I did a bad job here. It's okay. On your homework, multiplication symbol. And then these are elements, and the elements will be using a lowercase letter with a 2-digit number to tell you which row and column to find them. Okay, I hope that video was helpful for you. Welcome to the land of the matrices. I love matrices. I think they're so fun. And yes, matrices is the plural version of matrix. It's not matrices. You say matrices to me, I'm going to struggle with you. Okay? All right. Good luck with your homework assignment, and we will continue on. Happy honorsing. See you later. Bye.